Welcome to Jurassic Peak. Welcome back, everybody, to Jurassic Peak. We are continuing the new series that I begun on only Sunday, and I gotta thank you, my viewers, for your interest in the series because we got a whopping 60 views in 24 hours, which is quite the amount. Well, we're going to begin part 2, and today we are going to be working on Bracky Valley. In part 1, we worked on the tourist hub, or the visitor hub, and it was a lot of building, a lot of restaurants, and I'm certain that many of you are looking forward to seeing some actual dinosaurs. So today's episode is going to be pleasing, I think. This is a difficult episode in terms of the amount of terraforming we have to do. Unfortunately, most of the episode is terraforming, but it does work out in the end if you just bear with me. What I'm doing now is I'm starting by terraforming the valley. I want the valley to be a little wider, so that the dinosaurs are a little more comfortable, even though I turned off their comfort. So I'm just making the sides about a path width on at least the left side here. The right side, I don't mind it being a little bit wider. So this is a pretty big undertaking. Bracky Valley I knew would be a lot of work, which is why I thought that it would be best to do it episode 2, because I think it's better to get the more difficult project out of the way. I call it Bracky Valley because it is going to house our Brachiosaurus, but it will also have other long-necked dinosaurs included. In fact, it will have, I believe, every single one that I have available at the time of recording. So whatever came with my DLCs. What I'm doing here is I'm just getting the slope a little more friendly so that the guests can get up and get onto the path without much effort. But it does prove to be quite a challenge. If you don't prepare it ahead of time, then you're going to have to redo some of your work, which is what I end up doing often in this episode. But like I said in the previous episode, I am editing out a lot of the boring stuff, like selecting paths or selecting objects, and I just want to show you sort of the rough idea of what I'm up to here without deliberating on every single object that I might possibly use, because I imagine that you wouldn't be too interested in that. Episode 1 was a lot of wondering what object to put where, so for episode 2 and beyond, I am going to try and make it much more friendly for you, where I still want to show you the process, but I don't want to bore you too much. So the terraforming is a huge process, and by the end of the episode, I think you will probably be sick of it, but that at least I know that I showed you the minimum amount of terraforming I possibly could have shown you in this episode, because it took me hours and hours to do this. Mainly just going back and forth on what I've already done and fixing it and everything. So these painted lines just show where the major gradients changes are. I don't need to keep them, it's just sort of for an idea of where it is without having to go into a screen to look for the gradients. So it is quite helpful. This is the first major success of the episode, which is getting this pathway up the side here successfully. Now I do want to hug the most outer edge, because I will want to bring the sides in more. I'm just trying to figure out where it needs to go. And I'm going with a medium path because the medium path I'm using is the main path of the park, and the small path I'm using as the branching path. So even though it's quite narrow here, this is technically one of two ways to get to the rest of the park. So I'm using the medium path for that. Okay, some more painting here just to keep the knowledge of the walls where they are. And then I'm going to have to paint as well the floor where I brought the walls in. So that's no longer wall anymore. Okay, my new favorite object is the wall from the Malta expansion. I will be using this quite a bit. Of course, it's unfortunate that it only works on perfectly flat ground. You will be seeing me, I suppose, yes, changing it later on, because I did try to place it on some slopes, but it just doesn't really work very well. But on flat ground, it's perfect. It's the best object there is. I want the guests to be able to get pretty close, but without falling off the edge. So it is quite handy to use this because it's quite a good height. An adult would walk right up to it and could stick their head over and have a look below. And of course you'll see why it's such a great idea to have the path on each side of the valley when you see how great it looks with the dinosaurs. Okay, yes, well, now is a good time as well to tell you more about the series. I have planned it out. I think this series is going to be about 9 episodes. I've just finished filming a few, and so what I'm planning is I will release these every Sunday and Wednesday. So this one will be releasing on Wednesday, and then the next one will be releasing on that next Sunday. I think 2 episodes a week is very reasonable because the new game is coming out in October, at the end of October, and I'd like to have a good library of park projects finished on my YouTube channel before then, so that I can feel confident to jump right in with Jurassic World Evolution 3. So we will be doing a few more park projects after this. I have some ideas, but this is definitely quite the project. Here you can see I tried to put those walls on the side, but on the sloping area of the path, and they just don't really work. But I am bringing the walls, or well, the cliff face to the path after I put the path down. Now it is safe to put them down or get the walls closer. So Bracky Valley in total, I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different species of dinosaur here. I'm going to be dividing the valley up into 5 sections, and then I'm going to have 3 sections nearby to house the remaining dinosaur species. Of course, the Brachiosaur is my favorite of all the long-necked dinosaurs, so That dinosaur will be getting the best treatment. Here I'm going over the path with some dirt just to give it some color. Okay, yes, just putting down some grass first. I find the dirt goes better on top of the grass. It really blends a lot better. Okay, this area here is the other path up to the right-hand side. So we finished the path on the left-hand side. Now we're doing the path on the right-hand side. I have this valley that I formed on the other side just as a natural valley, but I think that that's the perfect way to go up. So we're just terraforming just like we did previously. We're climbing up. Each one of these layers of elevation, it's quite steep for the guests. I try to consider Granny and her walker, or her mobility cart, so I don't want it to be too steep, because we do have people who are going to need to spend some effort climbing up here. So we have to consider Granny. This area here, I'm leaving it quite wide. I do have a plan for that. But right now we're going to get our path in. Again, another medium path. And you'll see how perfectly it goes in here. And again, thank you for watching and viewing this series. And if you like it and you want to see more, like and subscribe so that you don't miss another episode. But of course, I'll be doing episodes anyway. But if you want to see them quickly pop up in your YouTube feed, then be sure to subscribe so you don't miss them. And also, please do comment in the comment section. That's even more important. If you want to chat about the series, or if you want to suggest anything, please do let me know. I always read the comments. I do try to answer every single comment, unless of course it's a comment that doesn't really have an answer for it, and then I might not answer. But if you do have a genuine question or comment, then I will definitely want to engage with you in the comment section. Here I'm just bringing up the elevation of this area here, but I'm going to try not to disrupt the path. We want to use as much of this real estate as we possibly can, and we want to tie the park together here. So whatever we can use this for, it's definitely a good thing. No wasted space on this mountain. And again, we want it to be nice and smooth so Granny can get her wheelchair up here. Taking the grandkids to Jurassic Peak. But we don't want Granny to run out of steam before she gets to the top. Imagine how great of a memory it would be with your grandma or your grandpa or your mom and dad or you and your best friend or your mentor going to Jurassic Peak. But I'm telling you, it's going to be quite the workout to get up there. Here we're just painting the side again. Of course, if there's plants growing on the side, then it's going to be covered in grass, but you are still painting underneath it, you see, when I erase the trees. And sometimes you can sort of see the color through it, but I find that the foliage is very dense. So it does cover the rock texture very, very thickly. All right, we're just taking this path down the other side. This side I don't mind so much about the width of the path and trying to get it to hug, because the other side is really more for that purpose, to let you see the dinosaurs so close to the side of the path. This path, it's going to be a little wider. So again, I didn't really have a plan for building anything before I started. I really am just taking it as I go. Now here we're just getting the mouth of the valley fenced off with just a standard fence, but I am going to be using the invisible fences to give you a feeling of intimacy with the brachiosauruses and the other dinosaurs. But in this front area here, I am putting a proper fence in just to remind you not to get too close, not to wander onto the path, or into the enclosure, I should say. And of course, with Jurassic Peak, well, we got to turn this area into a sort of plaza to enjoy refreshments. Jurassic Peak is going to be full of refreshment stands and shops that sell coffee mainly, because you're going to need all the energy you can get to see all the dinosaurs in just a short amount of time. And also, if you got season tickets, I think it would be perfect that you could really slow down and enjoy the sights. So I'm getting the statues here. This is going to be perfect for Brachy Valley because we're all about long neck dinosaurs. Here we're just getting our seating in. Again, I'm not overdoing the seating. I could fill this place up with seating, but I don't want to overuse my decorations so early. And some garbage cans. We don't want people to be carrying their trash. And I did just put in the shop there. I think that might be coffee or something else. Here I put the when dinosaurs ruled the earth or roamed the earth, the sign there. That signifies that you're leaving the visitor hub But I also, later in this series, you'll see that I'm going to use those to sort of separate the areas, especially the areas as I did the episodes. But some areas are just a little bit too tight. Now, even though I don't have dinosaur needs turned on, I'm still going to give them some water, mainly because I want it so when you are sitting and drinking your coffee, you can see the reflection off of the water very nicely. I'm trying to make it as visually pleasing as possible, not just fill it with dinosaurs, but I want to give you an experience. I find the dirt really goes the best underneath the water out of all the terrains and textures. I find it gives it a nice deep look. Okay, here's a perfect area here for an observation post. There will be brachiosauruses here, so this is a great place to have a little look, especially after you just had your coffee. You go up and you want to see what it looks like from above. Now that's something that I'm going to be doing continuously in this series, it seems, is painting and repainting, going over all the path work, of course. That's something new for me. When I just play on my own, you know, before I started YouTube, I can't say I put too much effort into making a park look good, but I hope that you will consider what I've done to be satisfying. I know I just went by here. We're going to flatten that out. I don't remember if I did something or if I just happened to go over that and not notice, but we are going to flatten that. Now we're going to start with our invisible fence. I don't want it to be necessarily on the ground, but I don't want it to be too high either on the side of the cliff. So I will actually be redoing some of these once I see how, like, that's way too far in. So I will be hugging the edge more, and then I'll redo that. These invisible fences as well are probably some of the best things for me. Buying the Biosyn in the Malta expansion was quite game-changing, I would say, because the decorations, the invisible fences, and I would say they have a great selection of dinosaurs. Alright, we're going to do the next side here. I will be dividing the valley up into individual cells so that the dinosaurs don't mix. Mainly because I don't want some people to see all the dinosaurs and other people to see no dinosaurs. So I do have peaceful mode turned on. But it is mainly just so that everybody gets an equal experience. This is what I've been doing for slopes, is since that brick wall, that stone wall doesn't go up slopes, I use these fences to block people from falling off the edge of the cliff here. But I do try to use a wall that people can see through. It serves no purpose other than to restrain people. And I know it's electrified, but I like to imagine that people can get quite close to it. So we're doing more of this. The invisible wall here, the invisible fence. So again, not too low, but not too high. And I will have to repaint the ground here, don't worry. So here I'm just bringing these two paths together, joining them up. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just trying to move along a little bit at a time, so I'll probably redo some things. Okay, on the other side of the valley, I'm going to close it off just like I did at the front with a physical fence here. I decided with this sort of peninsula on the side of the valley here, I'm going to make it into an observation hub. Of course, you have some wasted space with the observation tower, but of course, people don't need to look at the cliff or the mound. They can concentrate their eyes just at the dinosaurs in the valley, so that doesn't matter too much. I did have another idea here, which you will see is going to be a zip line. I think it would be a great idea to do a zip line over the mountain here. And because of the elevation, it's not too radically tall. I hate freakishly large or freakishly tall zip lines. They don't really look too good. But it would be fun, you know, taking the zip line and you have this long-necked dinosaur that could reach up and snatch you off the zip line if it wanted to. That is sort of the thrill of Bracky Valley. Here we're going to be doing a little plaza area. Nothing too special, no seating or anything, but I do want it to be visually pleasing to come here. You know, a relaxing place. Okay, I know it's not perfectly straight, but I think that looks pretty good. And I did an outer ring. I think that'll be perfect. Okay, I've got this place looking a bit like an oasis here. Especially if you have spent a lot of time walking. If you're coming back from the very peak and you're making your way back to the tourist hub or the visitor hub and you're very tired from all that walking, this is a really refreshing place. Of course, it's easier going downhill than uphill, so you can get back to the visitor hub very quickly, but even then it's certainly nice. Here's me looking, I'm just seeing. Okay, I'm screwing up here. I am spending a lot less time on this selecting process, because I am editing my videos a lot more heavily so that you're not wasting time watching me pick through things, but even then I leave a little bit in. So I'm trying to get it lined up. Here we're doing the same thing as before. I like to use these fences around observation towers, especially because I do like to imagine if you fell out, maybe instead of falling into the Bracky pen or what other dinosaur might be there, you hopefully will fall on the inside of the fence and you won't roll down the hill. So that's my intention, at least. Now here I'm just selecting my dinosaurs. We've got a selection here. I can tell you what we choose. This is a good opportunity. We have the Diplodocus, the Amargasaurus, we have the Brachiosaurus, the Mamenchisaurus, Apatosaurus, Dreadnoughtus, Nigersaurus, and Camarasaurus. I believe that's all of them. So I'm putting the Dreadnoughtus in the zipline area, of course. I think it must have the longest neck. And the Brachiosaurus, of course, will be the first dinosaur that you see. Here I'm just dividing the valley up. Once I know how many dinosaurs I'm going to have in an area, that's when I start dividing and deciding where everyone's going to go. So again, I'm using invisible fencing to make it seem very seamless. When you're walking, you probably aren't going to see the fencing if you're not paying attention. So people are going to see all the dinosaurs and it will look like they're together, but actually they are not. This area here is very narrow. So whichever dinosaur is going to be here is going to be, it's going to be a bit tight. Now we've definitely got a rough outline of Brachy Valley, so we are going to begin to consider more decorations and more, I would say, finer details. Here I put another observation post up. I'm trying to put them up in places where there's something to do, something to see, and great vantage points. Brachy Valley is full of great vantage points. You can see we already have, I think, 4 or 5 observation posts. In fact, most of Brachy Valley is going to be just observation posts. There's going to be very little observation galleries, viewing galleries, which is interesting. I thought it would be a different way to do things. Here I'm just decorating the side of this path here. This is a path that doesn't need to be too far or too close. And I do think that as you're walking, it could be nice to have the shade of these trees here. The ginkgo trees are some of my favorite because they're very bushy and they do offer a lot of volume in a tight area. But we don't want any to block our view of the dinosaurs. We just want them on the one side. So when the sun is coming overhead, it's going to be perfect. Here, just bringing the mountain rock down. I don't want it to appear too uniform. So anywhere there's a gap in the trees, I'm trying to get rid of the trees where there's a gap, you know, get rid of the plants. Now we begin decorating. There's a few areas in this Bracky Valley that need some dedicated decorating, especially since it's quite a long valley for people. So it's good to have a few rest spots along the way. I love these benches. In fact, I would say for most of the time that I've played Jurassic World Evolution 2, these used to be my favorite decoration piece. That is before I got the Malta stone wall. But benches are so useful, benches and tables. But benches especially. I forget if these were a free update decoration or if they were with the base game. Because we have had some free update decorations, of course. Here I'm just using the Biosyn decorations here. These are great. I really do like them. Alright, I just finished decorating this area here. I closed it in and added some more decorations. And I think it looks great when everything is just shaded with the dirt brush here. It looks really, really good. I love how those Biosyn decorations have the lights. At night it really brings everything together. Now over here I'm considering our decorations, because this isn't such a big, I would say, fall. If you were to fall off the edge, I'm just using these Malta walls here as a barrier. I think then at least it's not too bad. If you stumbled over it, you were taking a selfie and you fell off the side, at least you would just roll down a little bit onto the path below. You'd be very safe. Of course, everybody has to sign a waiver when they enter the park, so there's no risk on my end, but we still don't want people to go getting into trouble. Now I do have a special idea for this area. We're going to turn it into another plaza. Just trying to get it as close as I can to the observation tower, but with the auto snap it really doesn't want to go where I want it to. And there I have to delete some walls. That's one thing I really don't want to do. Okay, if everything works perfectly, it should line up just right. And it looks like it does. Okay, filling in the area with some red path work here. And I just realized that I accidentally used the staff path instead of the regular path, which is quite foolish of me because then I have to essentially delete some red path because the red path goes underneath. So having redone that and saved you the effort of watching, I just skip. So here we are going to do a shop here that will sell, no doubt, coffee. Probably. Coffee or smoothies. And we're going to put our tables in. Because coffee shops usually sell sandwiches and paninis, so people can sit down and have a snack. And even from here you'll be able to see the dinosaurs down in the valley. It would be a great view. Now I decided that I am going to add some dinosaurs up here as I divided the valley into 5 sections, but I have 8 dinosaur species and I don't really want to have anyone really mixing in this park. I want everybody to have their own environment. So I am making an additional 3, which you will see their location soon enough. This one is not huge, but you'll see that it works perfectly. And I am going to have a viewing gallery up here, as well as a perfect selfie opportunity. You know, nowadays a lot of parks will have designated selfie zones and picture zones, so we are doing that as well. I decided to add this camera here. I suppose it could either be for the staff of the park to keep an eye on things in these remote areas, or for perhaps park visitors. You know, when you're on maybe a cruise ship or you're in a hotel and they have the TV in your room and one of the channels will be sort of the security camera footage. Have you ever seen that? Maybe in people's hotel rooms, they can actually watch the security camera footage here, either to see the dinosaurs from the camera, so when they're in their hotel they can continue to watch the dinosaur camera, or I don't know, they want to see the guests wandering around, which is also possible. Here I'm adding these sunshades to the path here. They look great. The only problem is you can't put benches under them, which is unfortunate. Here's an idea I had. This goes very well here, this curved piece. So I'm going to get rid of that one wall piece, as I don't need it anymore. And that ties everything together. You see, they don't fit underneath, unfortunately. And of course, I always go to the garbage can. Now here's my brilliant idea, my brilliant selfie idea. This is your photo opportunity. You can sit on the log with the dinosaurs in the background, and you see here yeah, get the sign in there. You know, you gotta have the logo. And then this is the best part right here, coming up. The log banner. It's like it's meant to be. You sit on the log, you got the log banner. It's really like a tourist attraction. I'm just looking if they have any other log banners, but I don't think so. Of course I know this is for the viewing gallery log, but I do think it's pretty funny that you would come here just for the log, to sit on the log for a photo. So here we're adding more trees, getting it nice and bushy. Now these trees, when they're put on the rock, the green isn't so vibrant, so I'm just going over it with the grass brush to make it a little greener. And then we have to dirt the path here. I would certainly like to know how many kilometers of path do I end up dirting as we finish the park. Here we're doing 2 more of these statues. I think this is probably the only place in the park that we could actually use them. And it's a good opportunity to put down the Brachiosaurus enclosure markings, just so people know that you are entering Brachy Valley. But I am going to move that one. Now I'm going to make another enclosure here. This is the second out of 3 additional enclosures. Okay, I just add another viewing gallery here. This one is quite tight to the path, but it works. And a few more decorations here. Since we're in the area. Now I was considering a light, but I come up with I would say a better idea in a moment. I believe I do it here. I do, the spotlight here. I think why not shine it on the skeletons all night? Especially if you're doing the night tour and you're coming from the visitor hub and you're walking here in the dark, everyone has their flashlight, and then as they're coming around the bend they see these skeletons all lit up. It would be quite the experience. Here I am bringing the path up, and we are going to be making our third and final extra enclosure here. Now here I'm just taking the main path up, and I believe I'll be using a smaller path for the next enclosure area because it doesn't lead anywhere. So the main path is going to continue up the mountain. I guess I do use this medium path. I might change it later, I forget. Although I doubt I do. I don't usually change these things. Now this area here, I couldn't imagine what I was going to use it for, but now I would say it sort of works very well. So another observation tower here. This is going to be perfect to view that end species. And of course we have to put our protective fence around here in case you fall out. Could be something happen with the glass. Or an earthquake perhaps. So here I'm doing another plaza. You might think I have too many plazas in this park, in which you would be right. And we're only on episode 2. But I do love having a place to sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee. I mean, I'm imagining a person could spend many hours out here, so they're going to need their energy. And we fill it in nicely. I believe there's an area that sort of messes up and the path gets screwed up. I generally won't be fixing that if there's an issue with the path where the red and the black don't really mix. That's just unfortunate. But they do get kind of wonky, so unfortunately not much can be done. So that looks great. Now for the next side here. And a small wall. Perfect. We're just decorating this plaza now. I like these golden rock decorations, or if they're made out of bronze. I find they really do fit well with most of my parks. Oh, they call it an amber planter. Well, probably not real amber. Now that was a very satisfying time lapse. I really love putting down tables. So it does feel good to see it in 8 times speed. Here I put down 2 buildings, but I left a gap in between them because I want to have another plaza area here. And you can see how the path has been affected by the buildings here. It's just unfortunate, but there's really not much that I want to do about that. Here I'm considering changing it, but unfortunately, it's just going to undo a lot of what I've done. I do consider putting something down there, but it just looks too much in the middle of the path. I don't like it. So we're going to put a biosyn fountain in. These look good everywhere. That was good. Now we're going to work on our third and final enclosure, the extra enclosures. It's a bit difficult to remember about the elevation here with these trees. They're so thick you can't see anything, but I'm pretty sure I'm going along the edge, so it's no problem. Okay, that's perfect. Now I decided to readjust the path, and as you can see, I'm using a small path now. I don't have too many plans for anything beyond this observation viewing gallery, but perhaps in later detailing I'll think of something. And one last wall here, and it perfectly fits. Now if I were really smart, I would paint that corner dirt. Ooh, I am really smart. Somebody was thinking. I must have had a coffee that morning. Okay, that's perfect. And we're really making progress now. And another camera here. I'm not making the cameras a regular thing, but I think while my mind is on it. And I added a generator vehicle to the coffee shop. I just think that maybe it's a little bit out of the way, so it might be good to have some backup power. And a garbage bin, of course. I seem to be addicted to those now. But, you know, you have a drink of coffee and then you come on over and you're bringing your coffee that last sip. And we'll put one of these biosyn lights here. I really like these. I haven't gotten into the habit of using them instinctually. But they're very nice. In fact, they're my favorite light, I would say. And I'm putting these sunshades here. I mean, they look nice as a decoration piece. Now it is time to smoothen this area out, and I believe we are going to paint these all grass colored. We don't need these rocky textures anymore, because we are nearly ready to put our first dinosaur of the whole park in. At this point, I should tell you, I think it's been about 17 hours of, well, terraforming the entire map, and then building the visitor hub, and then building the infrastructure of Bracky Valley. So by the time we put our first dinosaur in, I've been on this map for 17 hours. So I think we're both ready for some dinosaurs to come along. That looks much better. So this is the actual log attraction. This is a viewing gallery, and here is our first resident, a Brachiosaurus. Now for this map, I am using both variants of the Brachiosaurus. I am trying to use all the variants of any species that allows me to. The Brachiosaurus, of course, is one of my all-time favorites. In not the next episode, but the episode after, I will tell you.
Unlike a number of other
my
sauropods,
top list of dinosaurs, I suppose, my all-time greats. But that will be episode 4. They are magnificent creatures. Now I'm just decorating. I suppose I'm trying to give them their needs, but later on in the series, you're going to see that I sort of give up on that. Episode 5 of the Jurassic Peak series, I don't take needs into consideration at all. But at least in this episode, I am trying to give them some things they're interested in. Now we're just going to use this brush to give us a little bit of texture here. We want to simulate the idea that there's a lot of movement here, and it's ripped up the ground. So I like to use dirt for that. Yes, it's really just about getting the balance right when it comes to these plants. We don't want the observation tower to be obstructed. So we have to check our view here. Yep, that looks okay. One thing I wish is that the observation tower's windows weren't so foggy. I wish that they were much clearer, because I would probably be asking for my money back if I were in these viewing galleries and everything looked so dirty. You know, the windows need a good cleaning. Now we're going to add some rocks. Everybody loves rocks. I add them sparingly because I've never really tried to push my PlayStation to the limit before. When it comes to decorations, most of my parks are much simpler, I would say. So here I am trying to do more than I usually do, but at the same time I'm not trying to push it too early. So it's a learning process for me. Oh, those brachiosauruses are very talkative. Okay, now for our next species of dinosaur. I will tell you in one moment. I believe this is the Apatosaurus, but I'll know in a moment when we zoom out here.
Delivered.
Yeah, this is the Apatosaurus enclosure here. I'm not doing them like side by side. I am sort of putting them in a bit randomly. But it's mainly also about who do I want where. Like I want the Brachiosaurus to be my big draw. And I want the Dreadnoughtus to be the big, you know, zip line attraction.
Confirming asset delivery.
Okay, these guys are quite spectacular. And we're going to add a bit of dirt here. I just want to make it seem like they're moving around a lot. There's a lot of movement. I'm just trying to get the balance right here, but with very little success. Well, on to the next enclosure here. This one I'm putting in the Amargasauruses, but you are going to see pretty soon that it is not a good idea. I generally don't have a rule about rock color at the moment. I might become a little better at using rocks in the future, but at the moment at least I generally like to make it a little more random.
Well, what have we here? It's an Amargasaurus, according to the paperwork I have in front of me. Another interesting factoid. Its long neck meant it probably liked to feed on the taller branches of trees and such. At least that's what it says. Guess
Now,
we'll find out, huh?
Here is the Amargasaurus, and as soon as I saw it, I was a little bit in disbelief. I forgot
Delivery has
how
been completed.
small they are. Even to the point of being absolutely shocked. This is me being very shocked. I can't even move the camera. I am thinking, wow, they are tiny. In fact, their neck isn't even that long if you think about it, the size of them. So, of course, coming from the smallest of the long-necked dinosaurs, I have to move on to one of the biggest, the Dreadnoughtus. This is going to help balance my feeling of disappointment in putting the Amargus there. So this is going to be great. I know these are going to be very large. I believe that there were 2 variants of the Dreadnoughtus. I forget which one I used, unfortunately. In other episodes, I will be mixing. So if there's 2 variants, I will add both of them to an enclosure. But I'm pretty certain that for the Dreadnoughtus, I just used the 1 variant.
Asset transportation underway.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome
A Dreadnoughtus to the park.
Asset in transit.
Now it should be arriving any moment now. I'm mainly just trying to get the balance right when it comes to the height of these plants. I don't want to feel like there's obstruction in the view. Here's our Dreadnoughtus. You can see the shadow.
Transportation complete.
This animal, though an herbivore, can intimidate most predators with its size. It's a biggie named Dreadnoughtus. I'd give this dinosaur a wide berth.
Now that's a big dinosaur.
Delivery complete.
Now, of course, we have to try the zip line and see how it goes here. That was quite impressive. That's one thing I like about Jurassic World Evolution 2 is it really amps up the moment with that music. Gets you all excited. Here we're looking at the end enclosure here. And I do have an idea for this one. So this one, of course, is getting some water, just like for the Brachiosauruses. Now here what I want to do is, because I have the invisible fence there and yet there's nothing stopping the visitors from walking over to it, I do want to obstruct it with trees as well. When the visitors are coming around that mound, that hill there, I want it to be a bit of a surprise for them to see what dinosaurs here. So I use the biggest, thickest trees to block their view for when they get to that fenced area, and then they'll get their first view of the dinosaur.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Nigersaurus to the
Now I believe they just said what dinosaur it is. It is the Nigersaurus.
Asset has been collected.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome the Nigersaurus to the
Transporting asset.
And here it is.
Asset has been transported.
This sauropod, the Nigersaurus, was originally discovered in fossilized form in the Republic of Niger, hence the name. Now, it lives thanks to our efforts and our science. Notice the long tail, the flat skull. However, this dinosaur is smaller than some of its cousins. Now that we have them to study, perhaps
so
we
that's
can...
how they pronounce it. Nigersaurus. I can't say I knew that. Well, that's news for me. Here I have moved the Amargasaurus to its new enclosure. This is up on top of the hill. You saw me make this area previously. So the reason is because I believe that area is just a bit smaller, and it's more fitting for a smaller dinosaur.
Asset
Now
in
we are
transit.
working on the Mamenchisaurus's habitat here. Again, I'm putting down some thicker trees, but I don't want it to be blocking the view of the observation tower, so I will be changing that.
Asset has been transported.
Okay, this dinosaur is something special. Seriously, look at the size of this thing. It's called the Mamenchisaurus. This thing is one of the largest animals to ever walk the earth. And now, thanks to the wonders of genetic engineering, it's doing just that again.
Oh, it's a nice addition to the park, that's for certain.
Asset transportation complete.
Here we're just smoothing this out. It can get quite extreme, the lip. I really can't say I like the lip too much when it comes to adding water ponds for the dinosaurs. I find it to be quite big. And if you're viewing from eye level, that's like 4 or 5 feet. So I do wish that it was a little bit more even, but I suppose I see where they're coming from here. I'm making a nice clearing area for them. Just adding a few rocks sparingly, of course. Now my favorite tree to do rocks with is the palm tree, because I find they pop up very easily between the rocks and it does look quite good. I don't like that tree very much. I find that's probably the most ugly tree in the whole game. Okay, I'm just getting this enclosure sort of fixed up for the next resident. This is the Amargasaurus's enclosure, and I found that it was just too big for them. So I am going to adjust it for its newest inhabitant. And if you remember my list from earlier in the episode, you'll know there are 2 dinosaurs that we have not yet added. We'll see if you can guess which ones they are. Now here I don't want to bring the shrubs too close to the path because, like I said previously, these plants are 6 feet tall and I don't want guests to be around.
Known as the chambered lizard, the Camarasaurus impresses with both its size and its blunt snout. It prefers to live in groups, a challenge, but one I'm confident you can handle.
So, there you are, the Camarasaurus, and, well, a group of 2 is how this one's going to be living. And here is our final enclosure.
Asset has been
I
collected.
wonder if you know which one this is going to be. There's only one left from my list. This one we're giving a nice, easygoing enclosure here. It is, I believe, only viewable by 1 viewing gallery, so they are going to have more privacy, I believe.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to welcome a Diplodocus to the park.
well, I call it a diplodocus, but I suppose if I could say it a little quicker it might sound like that, but it spoils the surprise. But that is our final dinosaur, the
Commencing asset
diplodocus.
transit.
This is a nice one, and it is the perfect dinosaur to end the episode with, as I think it's quite well known. It's sort of a famous dinosaur, being so recognizable. Look at that sunrise, isn't it beautiful? I mean, this is a very beautiful game. Here it is.
Asset transported.
Another massive animal. The Diplodocus was once considered the longest animal that ever lived. And now, thanks to our extensive research, it's back. My task is to make sure we learn everything we can about this dinosaur. Your task is making sure these magnificent creatures can survive in the modern world.
Well, yeah, that's one of my tasks. I certainly want the dinosaurs to live and survive in my park. Thankfully, they never get
has been
hungry or
delivered.
thirsty. That will help. All that genetic engineering we've been doing to them. Here I'm just trying to make the sight line a little bit clearer. I want it so when you're coming down the path you can get a nice early look. And of course we don't want too many 6-foot tall weeds to be growing next to the walking path. So even from here you can get a great view. I quite like how these dinosaurs, they keep their tail and their
Asset
neck
being transported.
quite straight, like horizontally. Now here, the final delivery. I wonder what it could be. It's going to the Brachiosaurus enclosure. It's another Brachiosaurus, except this is a different variant.
Delivery has been completed.
Unfortunately, I forget what variant it is. I wish that it wrote it next to their name, but it's one of those other variants. It's the only other one. But I'm trying to give you a little look. I suppose the bump on its head is smaller than the other variant, and that's a pretty big change. Here I'm just checking these guys are getting along. Again, the park is closed,
Delivery complete.
but there we go. That is Bracky Valley. Finished. I think it went well. I know it was a bit of a longer episode with a lot of terraforming. I am trying to make the episodes reasonable length, but also not waste time with too much picking and choosing. I hope you can see this episode was an improvement from the previous episode. Here we're just going to take a little helicopter tour of Bracky Valley. So I am trying to improve my technique as I edit and film and speak, and hopefully you found it to be enjoyable. Episode 3 will be out on Sunday, so again, episodes are releasing Wednesday and Sunday for Jurassic Peak. That's not a guarantee that it will be Wednesday and Sunday for Time Immortal, but at least for Jurassic Peak it will be. So when I start the next series after Jurassic Peak, who knows about its episode? I don't know yet. I'll let you know though. I do write a lot in the, I guess the post section of my YouTube channel, where I can tell you what's new outside of a video. You know, I write a post and it goes into the community section or what have you. So just keep your eyes out for that. I do try to tell you these things. Again, every episode will be commentated. I am now commentating all episodes of everything I do now, but I will not be doing commentation on the videos that I've already finished. So that's why there will be videos without commentary releasing until September. But everything I make now will have commentary. So thank you very much for watching Bracky Valley with me, and I do look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. The next episode will be a smaller project. It is a nice change, but it will be no less complicated, unfortunately. Mainly because I have a habit of making everything complicated, so that is all you need to know. But until next time, I will say thank you very much and enjoy the last minute of Bracky Valley.